because of the nature of attachment, the first state preceding to the actual experience of loss is that of the fear of loss. This is usually defended in one of the two ways. One is to increase the intensity of the attachment by ever persisting attempt to strengthen the bond. This approach is based on the fantasy that greater the bond, the less likelihood of loss. However, this is the very maneuver that often precipitates loss in personal relationship because the other person struggle to be free of the possession attachment and the amount of restrictive control they feel being placed upon them. Thus, because what we hold in our mind tend to manifest, the fear of loss can paradoxically be the mechanism of bringing about that loss. The second way, the fear of loss is handled by the psychological mechanism of denial, which is in the common language called playing ostrich. We see this around every day in our various forms of refusing to face the inevitable. All the warning signs are there, but the person does not take heed. Thus, the man who is oblivious in the process of losing his job tends not to notice. The partner in the marriage that is going down the drain take no corrective action. The person with a serious disease ignore all symptoms and avoid medical attention. The politician fail to look at the social problem, hoping they will go away. Whole country are oblivious to the precaution state of existence. The motorists ignore the omnibus warning signal of misbehaving engine. We have all experienced regret that we did not pay attention to the warning signal of the trouble ahead. To handle the fear of loss, we have to look at what the purpose of external person or object serve in our life. What emotional need is being fulfilled? What emotions would arise as were to lose the object or person? Loss can be anticipated, and we can handle the various fear associated with the sense of loss by disassembling the emotional complexes that they represent and letting go of individual component feeling. Let's say, for example, that you have a pet dog to which you have been attached for many years. It is obvious the old rover is getting older. You find that you don't like to think about this advanced age, feeling uncomfortable at the prospect of his death and putting it out of the mind. As you catch yourself doing this, realize there's this feeling of warning signal and that you are not handling the emotional situation. And so you ask yourself, what purpose is the dog serving in my life? What is this emotional service to me? Love, companionship, devotion, amusement, diversion. Will losing the dog leave his personal emotional need unfulfilled? I'm looking into this. Some of the fear can be acknowledged and relinquished. Once the fear is let go, you don't have to resort to denial and pretend to be yourself. That rover will live forever. Another emotion associated with the grief and mourning is that of anger. The loss at which is important frequently bring up the fear of rage, which may be projected onto the world, society, individual, and ultimately God, who is held responsible for the nature of the universe. Anger results from the pure refusal to accept the fact that all relationship and possession in this life are transitory. Even the physical body, which is our biggest attachment, eventually has to be relinquished, as everyone is aware. We feel that what has become important or comforting to us is permanent attachment. Consequently, when that illusion is threatened, there is anger, resentment, self pity, feeling which can be result in chronic bitterness. Important rage is associated with the desire to change the nature of the world and the possibility of doing so. In fact, the fact of existing a major loss can therefore bring about a shift in our psychological position. One major loss can be awakened as the nature of all the attachment in all the relationship. We may again deny the oblivious fact that all relationships are transitory and furiously re-intensify existing bond to compensate for the loss. A part of handling denial is inevitable for the loss is seen through attempt and manipulation. In fantasy, the mind tries to develop tactics so to avoid the loss. This may take a form of becoming gooder or more hardworking, more honest, more preserving, more loyal. In a religious person, this may take the form of trying to manipulate God by promises and bargain. In relationship, it may take a form of overconspiratory behavior. The spouse become ever more dutiful, loving attention in any attempt to prevent a breakup. The inactive husband suddenly start bringing home gift flowers instead of getting to root cause of the problem. What the denial break down? The manipulation have not worked and the fear has been passed through. Then the depression itself, the actual process of mourning and grief takes place. All this emotional stage can be worked through which more rapidly by the process of letting go, in which inevitably the emotion of grief is surrendered to the same place and replaced by the willing of letting go of resistance, let go the process pass through and complete itself. This can be a decision of letting go by resisting the grave. Instead of denial and resistance, you plunge into it and get over it. You have a good cry over old rover or the lost relationship. Associated with the feeling of grief is always a variable amount of guilt. This is based on the fantasy that loss represents a punishment or that different attitude or behavior would have prevented it from happening. Unless it is relinquished, and guilt can then be recycled and refuel the anger and rage. This unacknowledgement and unrelinquished rage may be projected onto the other in the environment in the form of blame. Blame project onto other relationship may then compound the loss of bringing about future losses. This happens frequently between married partner as a result of death of a child. It has been reported that divorces rate among parents who have lost their children is as high as 90%. Because of the projection of blame, the severe loss is then compounded by another severe loss, that is your partner. An example of this type of variation is that a case of 40-year-old woman. She had excellent marriage for 20 years with an attractive and beautiful husband. Her youngest son developed leukemia. When he died, she went into grief and mourning, and more importantly, developed a rage reaction. It took the form of hatred. She hated the doctor, she hated the hospital, she hated God, and she hated her husband and the existing children. Her rage became so uncomfortable, she became physically violent and threatening. Several times, the police had to be called to control her violent behavior. Finally, other children left home out of the fear of chaos, physical abuse, and maintaining the emotional state. Her husband left no stone unturned in trying to help her with the rage, but she vented her fury upon him as well, violently attacking him on several occasions. Finally, in depression and despair, he was driven from the home. This situation ultimately ended in the divorce in which a woman lost her home. It was handling 5 years before the rage subsidized, at which the time the woman had destroyed her whole life. Now had to start over from the scratch, rebuilding a new life. All this negative emotion have been worked through and surrendered to and let go of the relief finally occurs. The former suffering is replaced by acceptance. Acceptance is different from resignation. In resignation, there is still residual of the previous emotion left. It is a reluctancy and a delaying of the true recognition of the fact. Resignation say, I don't like it, but I have to put it with it. With acceptance, resistance to the true nature of the fact has been relinquished. This, one of the signs of acceptance, is serenity. With acceptance, the struggle is over and a life begins anew. The energy that were bounded up in the previous negative emotion are now freed up so that the healthier aspect of the personality are now re-energized. The creative aspect of the mind develop opportunity for new life situation and further option for growth and experience and accomplished by the new sense of aliveness. Failure to work through any of the various emotions associated with mourning and loss can result in chronic sickness in any of the components. Thus, it can result in prolonged depression and prolonged state of denial in which the death of a person is actually denied. Chronic guilt or refusal to work through the emotion associated with loss can result in delayed grief reaction and physical disease. The mechanism behind this process are explained in a later chapter and the relationship between mind and body. The suppressed energy of the relinquished emotion re-emerges through the body endurance and nervous system as energetic imbalance, which impair the flow of life energy through the body acupuncture meridian. This results in pathological changes in various organs. It is well known fact that death rate among the period is much more higher than the general population, especially in the first year of two following the death of the spouse. Thank you. Please do like, share, and comment.